acute changes and degenerative changes that we see in PAPs. So these are seen probably in almost every cervical sample to some degree, but they're particularly common when there's a pathogen present or some sort of organism. So notice down here, each of these cells has a little white halo around the nucleus. We call that a perinuclear halo, and it's a vacuolation where the cytoplasm's contracted away from the nucleus, and that is a classic inflammatory or degenerative type change that you see in squamous cells. This can be useful because it can help you be on the lookout for a pathogen that's in the background. Notice these nuclei I'm pointing out also a bit wrinkly, and they have a less than smooth nuclear membrane around them. Here's just another example. Again, you can see that clearing around the cytoplasm, around the nucleus, like this one here. And if I look on high power, you can see the nuclei have shrunken down and become irregular in shape. And notice, however, the NC ratio is not increased at all, and the chromatin is still pretty normal. When this goes to a further extent, the nuclear membrane ruptures and you end up with just clumps of chromatin like this. That's known as karyorrhexis, and that is a nuclear degenerative change. The other thing that can happen sometimes is you can get a bit of a reactive change, and that's what I would say is going on in these endocervical cells. Nuclei are a bit larger and plumper, and the nucleoli, which I'm just pointing out, are a little more prominent. And that can often be a bit of a reaction to some external stimulus. I'm just pointing out a columnar cell there that confirms that they're endocervical. Gland cells tend to show these changes probably more markedly than do squamous cells. So that's reactive changes. Not really what I'd call repair, and I'll do a different clip on that. But it is just a sort of, I would call that a mild reactive change. So you can see here this specimen is showing quite a lot of those changes. Not sure if you can appreciate it on low power, but nearly all of these cells have perinuclear halos in them. There's also a bit more eosinophilia than normal, and the cells themselves are staining a bit pale in some cases. We'll have a look on high power, and you can probably see those changes better. Notice these cells have vacuoles here. That's usually a degenerative change in squamous cells. Notice that the nuclei have quite marginated chromatin as well. It's outlining the membrane, and that's a degenerative change too. So again, you can see a bit of variation size, maybe slightly enlarged nuclei here. NC ratio is still quite normal, and notice the staining is a bit ragged. Just looking around, we've got some cells that are very poorly staining like this. They look a bit moth-eaten and ragged. They're sort of falling apart, and a lot of nuclear halos around the place. So this is a clue to go looking for something in here, Candida or Trichomonas, and that is a Trichomonas vaginalis organism, that is too. They're not the greatest examples, but I'll show you maybe some more convincing ones. Just looking around, notice nearly all the cells have some inflammatory change, and these trikes, I'm just pointing out one there, there's one in the center. These are quite small little beasties, and there's a couple more there, really quite tricky to find. So if you can see the inflammatory changes, it can be a big clue. So in summary, perinuclear halos, nuclear shrinkage and irregularities of the membrane, and karyorrhexis are all classic changes that you can see in degeneration. You get no increase in NC ratio usually with these, and sometimes you'll see slight reactive changes, and I'll show you a good example of repair, which is marked reactive change, in the next clip.